So, Paramount, well played. Well played on releasing a genuinely incredible video game film. Like, the first one was pretty good, it was a very solid start. But this film was fucking incredible. I got done watching it yesterday and I walked out the cinema with just the biggest smile on my face. I couldn't stop thinking about that film. The second that I got home later that evening, I instantly just started taking some notes down. I have the notes open in front of me because that's what I'm going to be referencing. And I just started taking notes, and I had to talk about this as soon as I possibly could. But yes, this is going to be just a discussion. It's not going to be a full-on review. The full review will come eventually when the digital and Blu-ray editions come out, so then I can, use some scenes and clips to back up my points and rewatch the films and stuff to really solidify my points. But yes, this is going to be a two-part discussion. Part 1, non-spoiler, should be over quick within like 5 minutes or so. And then the spoiler section that's going to be definitely a lot longer. And I highly recommend that you watch this film first. Like, I don't care if I lose out views. If you're a Sonic fan and you watch this spoiler section without having seen the film, you are doing yourself a huge disservice. Go and watch the film as soon as you can. But yeah, as the title implies, this film was actually amazing. There is so much that was done in this film, and it wraps up so neatly as well. I'll talk about that more in the spoiler section, but there aren't like any loose plot threads here. Well, actually no, think about it, there's one minor loose plot thread here, but everything sort of starts and wraps up nicely, and we get all the story that we need. We get the backstories of the Master Emerald, Echidnas, and Longclaw. That's explained a lot more, and yeah, it just works. The story here was great, and it was also very well paced. There wasn't any point of this film where I felt like the film slogged or got too slow. And there weren't too many moments like this in the first film where I kind of have to do that sort of line from my review from the first film of the movie needs to movie. It just felt a lot more, it just felt much better written here. And also the characters here, that's another thing. So I already talked about Sonic's character and how great that character was in the first film, and how great it was considering it's a different interpretation from the Sonic that we know from games like Adventure 2 and Black Knight. But it works in this case, giving Sonic a character arc and not making him the one with the static character arc to influence others. But they also, we had Tails here, we had Knuckles here. Their characters were great as well. I'm not going to say anything about their characters, this is a non-spoiler section. But if you were worried, don't be. And then we also got Robotnik as well. And it's honestly exactly what you expected it to be. It was. So no problems there. So already the characters, great. Stories, great. What more do I need to talk about? Well written, well paced, and also, like I kind of wanted for the first film, they focused more on the Sonic characters from the Sonic universe and a bit less on the human characters. Not to the point where the human characters felt insignificant, but the human characters were there, and it was incorporated well in service to introduce aspects of the story. Again, I talk about that more in the spoiler section. But the humans weren't useless here, but they took a back step, but in the right way. The presence of the humans in some of the earlier scenes does kind of break the pace a bit, as it feels like they had to sort of force the humans into the story, because they were such a big part in the last film. It doesn't feel wholly forced though, because this sub-story with the humans does eventually tie into the main plot, and from then on it's constantly building momentum in the story. So it's not the worst, but yeah, there is a little bit of that pace broken, so it's not completely flawless in terms of its pacing. There's a couple moments where it did fall kind of short though. As with a lot of these sort of films aimed towards children, there's a few jokes here that didn't land. But yeah, I'll be real here. I might be giving this more love than it probably deserves because I am a huge Sonic fan, but you gotta understand, this was so incredible for me because this was This was literally at one point just in the film, I was just like shaking because I was just watching my childhood come to life on the big screen. I just was. There was so many points where I was just like, is this real? Am I in a dream right now? Why has it taken so long for these characters to be treated with fucking respect? And here it is, they're getting the absolute respect they deserve, and they're being treated well, and they're taking the time again with the characters and their arcs. But yeah, I can't go into too much. Overall, this film was amazing, and yes, there was a setup to the third film, post-credits, as there will be in pretty much all of these films. And I'm going to call it now, the third film is going to be better than this one. Yeah. But my final rating right now for the non-spoiler section of this, for this film, is a outstanding rating of 9 out of 10. This was all I wanted and more from this film. It delivered on everything. It got the characters, it got the story down, and it got the backstory down, pacing, and the animation. I forgot to talk about this as well, but the animation here from Marza, guys, Marza nailed it. You guys absolutely nailed it with this one. All the characters look great. I spoke about it, even in the trailers you can just see it. Like, just how incredible Knuckles look, just the detail, like the furrows between the eyes and stuff, and just the sort of like crunching of the skin. It was so detailed. And I absolutely loved it. And you get to see loads of detail and little extra details as you watch the film. 9 out of 10, and I'm sticking with that for now. Again, rating might change as I rewatch the film more. I'm almost definitely going to go back to the cinema at some point soon to watch the film again, because I just loved it. I loved it, I really did. But yeah, non-spoiler section done. Stick around for the spoilers section if you have seen the film and you just want to know my thoughts of the film as we delve more in depth into specific events. But yeah, thanks for watching. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the spoilers section of this video. Now, in this, I don't even know where to start, to be honest. I'm just... Where do I even begin? There's so much to talk about here. But I think what I'll probably do is I'll just sort of go through some of the main story events that took place, and just sort of pick them apart and discuss them and talk about how it relates to the characters and the situations they're placed in, talk a bit about the backstory of the emeralds and stuff, how it differs, because a lot happened in this, and then of course there's the incredible post-credit sequence to discuss, because I think, based on the post-credit sequence, we know what's happening in the next film. But yeah, let's just start. So the way it worked at the very beginning of the film is that Robotnik was on the Mushroom Planet, but what it really starts with is showing us this really long-winded Rube Goldberg machine. And I like this, like, stupidly overcomplicated Rube Goldberg machine, which even had this little bit of Sonic just running away from this sort of boulder sort of thing at the beginning. And the reason why I love that so much is because it once again shows us, just how smart Robotnik is. He's been surviving on this mushroom planet using just what he can find here, and the fact that he's still alive is a goddamn testament, but the fact that he's building all of this crazy shit is an even bigger testament. And this leads to him creating this sort of device that's powered by Sonic's quill that he kept from the first film, and that shoots out a giant beam into space, and that beam that I thought was emanating from Earth in the final trailer, was actually emanating from the Mushroom Planet, and this kind of led to the sort of portal ring opening, and then a bunch of guards came through, and again Robotnik, using his ingenuity, uses his contraptions that he's just built using stuff that he's found on this planet to defeat them, and as he tries to escape through the portal ring, bam! Knuckles appears, and instantly, we kind of get to see more about Knuckles' character and just how serious he is, based off the fact that he just instantly goes towards the blue quill, and you wonder, why does he care about the blue quill so much? What is the significance of that? But Robotnik then sort of makes a deal with him, saying he can take him to Sonic, and then it cuts. So already we have an incredible introduction here showing us Robotnik's ingenuity. It shows us Knuckles and how serious he is, and it leaves plenty of mystery to build up. What does Knuckles want? Why this blue quill specifically? But this gets cut out because we now go to Sonic in a city. I can't remember what it was. I'm really sorry for anybody who lives in that city. But he's in that city, and he, like I pretty much said in the trailer, he's kind of the sort of irresponsible vigilante. He's running around trying to be a hero, probably trying to fill that gap of boredom because he just, well, is bored. He's a child, and he wants some excitement. And he also wants to help people, and I think he sees it as as him being able to help people here, and be a hero. But he doesn't quite understand that he's not being a, for lack of a better phrase, proper hero. Again, he's being very irresponsible and childish about the situation. He's literally throwing bombs out onto the streets, causes God knows how much in property damages, and then at the end of it, he kind of just, sees himself as this hero, even though he's told by the person he saved that he is a terrible hero. And it works, because again, Sonic is a child here. This sort of leads to Sonic running back home, because actually what happens is Sonic is sneaking out at night to go and be a vigilante, and then he gets back and he sleeps. But before Sonic can fall asleep, Maddie busts in and goes, "Hey, you need to go be with Tom now." And Tom takes Sonic out on a fishing trip on a lake. And I like what happens with Tom in this film, because Tom is almost the character with the static character arc. He doesn't have a character arc in this film. His character arc was in the first film, him wanting to help people, and then when he eventually helps it, he realizes how important, even helping the small people of Green Hills is. And he decides to stay at Green Hill. But here, he serves to catalyze Sonic's character arc. And I pretty much guessed the character arc with the final trailer of Sonic becoming more responsible and learning what a hero actually is and what it means to be a hero. And he says this with a few lines and stuff, and they have a nice exchange. And it's also here that we get Sonic fall into the water one time, and they set up the fact that Sonic can't swim. And actually saying that, there is one kind of missed opportunity in this film. Later on in the film, as we know, Sonic's almost drowns when he saves Knuckles, and that would have been the perfect time to play the drowning theme. Just really, really increase the tension, because I don't know anybody who listens to that drowning theme and doesn't feel some kind of tension. That would have absolutely brought it back home. But that sort of begins his arc of responsibility. And we cut to the sort of next point about what's happening, and we get why Tom and Maddie are going away to Hawaii. It's because of the wedding that's being that's taking place for Maddie's sister, whose name I cannot remember for the life of me. But yeah, they go to Hawaii. We get a fun little segment with Sonic pretending to be an airport security guard. Way too many jokes could be made about that situation. But they leave, and Sonic is left in charge of the house for 48 hours. Obviously, again, to show us that Sonic is a child, and to show us that Sonic is still irresponsible to an extent. He's obviously not entirely irresponsible, but he's irresponsible to an extent. And he makes a huge mess, has his own kind of party and stuff. Seriously, I don't even know how he cleaned that up so quickly, but he did. I mean, how did he clean up so quickly? He's got fucking super speed, of course. He's gonna sit down at one point, and he's just being irresponsible, and he's gonna have his home movie night and stuff, and that's cool. It's a nice callback for him to have that sort of movie night, but now he gets to sit in the house, unlike the first film where he had to, stand outside and kind of creepily look in. It's also during this time that we see Tails appear from the ring again, and Tails is looking for Sonic, but we never got a reason as to why he's looking for Sonic. And I'll talk about Tails and his character in literally just a few minutes, because it ties in nicely to where him and Sonic travel. But after that, we see I think we get a few scenes in Hawaii, and we get the FaceTime calls and stuff between him and Sonic, well, Tom and Sonic. And then when Sonic is trying to sit down for his movie night, the power gets cut all of a sudden, and then at the front door, Robotnik appears and starts taunting Sonic, and then the Sonic charges up ready to hit Robotnik. Robotnik sidesteps out the situation, and then Knuckles attacks, and we get a pretty cool sequence of Sonic and Knuckles fighting, and we get to see what Knuckles thinks of Sonic. It's the same lines from the trailer where he goes, "You're unskilled, untrained, and unworthy. How can you?" And then he starts talking about this ultimate power, and then how can he be the one who's guarding an ultimate power, or something along the lines like that. And it really lets us know more about Knuckles' character and how he sees himself as above Sonic because of all the training that he's received. What we see about Knuckles in this film is that he's been trained since birth in all different kinds of combat, and he's outright states that himself. And so it's kind of that whole it's almost like a nature versus nurture situation in a sense, because it's kind of like the whole thing of, I've worked so hard to be as powerful as I am. How can someone like you, who's put no effort into their life, be in this position? Like, I'm trying to think of an example where that happens, but what's coming to my head is that one Simpsons episode, Homer's Enemy, which, if you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's one of the best Simpsons episodes.
No match for me. I've been training for this my entire life.
And I had no training at all, yet here I am ahead of you. That's gotta be embarrassing.
But yeah, we get that sort of fight happening. Knuckles just really demonstrates his true power with this whole, catching Sonic with his hand thing, and then just going and smashing him into the floor, and that creates a big shockwave as well, and that was really cool to see. But then Tails appears in a cop car. That's cool. Tails appearing, and we get to see Sonic and Tails do a quick exchange, and we see Knuckles running after them. And that's another thing that this film does really well with its characters in terms of the Sonic characters. Because even in the classic films, the classic games, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles were all fast. There's debate as to whether Sonic is faster or not. In some games, Sonic is faster than the others, but the other two are slightly slower, but they have their own abilities that sort of makes up for that. So Sonic is the fastest, but Knuckles and Tails are still fast, and they show this to us. Tails was flying down to try and find Sonic. He was still fast, and Knuckles running after Sonic in that cop car. Knuckles was still fast, and the way he was running as well feels like exactly how he would run. And actually, that's another thing they didn't do in this film, and I don't know if they're gonna have this for the movie universe or not, but Knuckles never glided in this film, or at least I don't remember him gliding at all, so I don't know if Knuckles is gonna have the ability to glide. We see Knuckles climb on several occasions, that's pretty cool, but we didn't see any gliding, so maybe this Knuckles doesn't glide. Like, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, I think I did, but Knuckles does talk about an ultimate power during this sort of fight sequence, and then Tails escapes with Sonic after they jump out of the car and start flying, and then Knuckles climbs up. Knuckles sort of makes this deal with Robotnik to obtain the Master Emeralds, similar to Sonic 3 in that sense. And Sonic and Tails take cover in the garage that belongs to... God, what's his name? I can't remember his name. I don't even know if it was mentioned in this film. The temporary sheriff, the guy who was working under Tom. They sort of take cover in there, and when Sonic opens up the map that was given to him by Longclaw with all the worlds that are being stricken off as he travels to them one by one, he sort of gets this hologram message appear from Longclaw, and it's basically Longclaw telling Sonic about how, it was her job to guard the Master Emerald, and that the Master Emerald is actually real, and that the only reason this message is playing is because something has happened to her, and now it's Sonic's job to protect the Master Emerald from falling into the wrong hands. Because there's this whole backstory that I'll talk about when I get to the scene where the backstory is actually, talked about in more depth. Well, mainly for the sort of echidnas and owls and stuff. But this sort of starts them on their path to try and find where the Master Emerald is, because, Sonic wants to fulfill Longclaw's desire for him. And this leads them to go to Siberia. Now, before I talk about this, actually, you know what? Yeah, no, let's just jump straight into this already. Actually, there is one thing I did notice. I'm remembering this just now in my film. This isn't in my notes. But we see this whole thing when Longclaw's message. She says at one point, "This means you've made it to Earth safely." But we see loads of planets crossed out on the map. And then that kind of just leads me to wonder, because a lot of people in my comment section were telling me that, Longclaw didn't send Sonic straight to Earth, but to other planets first, and Sonic slowly went through those planets until he made it to Earth. But here she just mentions Earth specifically, so does that mean that this message was waiting to play specifically until Sonic got to Earth? I don't know. See, that's one thing that wasn't explained, or at least I didn't catch an explanation if there was one. But yeah, that's just one tiny little blemish. Maybe someone can clear that up if I missed something. Yeah. Then you have this sort of Siberia moment, and this genuinely had a weirdly funny scene. So this sort of starts with Sonic and Tails being in a big snowstorm, and they try to take cover in this sort of bar that nobody speaks English in. And Tails has his translator, like in Sonic Colors. And obviously, like Sonic Colors, I'm assuming in a reference to that, Tails' translator wasn't quite that good and ended up insulting the waitress that was serving them. And then they were going to be burnt in a fire, because that's what happens in Siberia. Sure. It's here also where we see Tails getting a bit scared, and Sonic has to reassure him, and this works for Tails' character. And I'm going to speak about his character in literally a minute or so. But we get the sort of sequence starting, and it ended up being a dance fight. And it was honestly so funny, because the guy that they were fighting against not only started doing a Russian dance to a song called, I think the song was just called Russian Dance 1 or something like that, or Russian Song 1. I'm guessing they didn't have the actual full name of that, or it was their own song or something. I don't know. That was just what it was in the credits, because I literally stayed there and read the credits with my friends. But this guy was so unnecessarily funny. He had like a tattoo of himself, and then when he did like the cross symbol, he did another smaller cross symbol for the tattoo of himself, and the tattoo of himself was T-posing. So his tattoos asserting dominance. It was so meta, and I loved it. And me and my friends had a good laugh at that, and that was just a genuinely well done scene. Like, if you're gonna have a dance sequence in your film for whatever reason, that's how you do it. Just be smart about your comedy. Don't just think, oh, watching the characters dance around is funny and that will fill in all the gaps, because that's honestly not that funny. But being smart about your comedy like this is what makes scenes like this work. And that's why Sonic 2 is actually such a good film here, because there's so many moments of smart comedy. And a lot of times in these children's movies and stuff, you get just cheap, poorly done comedy, usually involving somebody just being loud for the sake of being loud, and then just nothing happens of any value, because children are dumb, and that's what all the corporate executives think. Children dumb, therefore our comedy needs no effort. But here they're smart with the comedy, and that's why it works a lot. But yeah, after this sort of happens, we get more about Tails, and we get to see more about Tails' character. And I love Tails' character, and we're going to talk about his character right now. So Tails in this film was, again, basically what I said it would be in the final trailer analysis. He was akin to the classic Tails / early Adventure 1 Tails. He's somebody who admires Sonic, and isn't, like, super confident in himself. But as he hangs around more with Sonic, he starts to grow a little bit more confidence. And like I said, we see Tails getting scared in a couple of moments, and Sonic reassures him, and, him looking towards Sonic boosts his confidence. And we get this really nice scene that builds this friendship and gives it some building blocks, where, Sonic calls Tails his friend, and Tails just automatically hugs Sonic, and then we get a bit of backstory on Tails about how Tails was an outcast on his home planet because he has two tails, and this outcast led him to have no friends, and so this was the first time that anybody was willing to be Tails' friend, and no less than it just being anybody, but the person that Tails admires and has been watching, from his planet, because that shockwave that was sent out in the first film actually wasn't just nationwide, it was galaxy-wide. It went all the way to Tails' planet, and Tails has been using it to kind of track Sonic and watch his movements, and then that's kind of why he sort of traveled to this planet, Earth, to meet Sonic, because he just admires the hell out of Sonic the Hedgehog and sees him as a hero. And that's great. It shows us that Tails, again, it's like the early adventure one. He's just not super confident, but he has so much admiration for Sonic, he's willing to follow him around. And that's really cool as well, because even Tails was hesitant to go with Sonic to Siberia in the first place, but, you know, Sonic just reassured him, and that's what led Tails to go in the first place. Again, just nicely building these characters and their details. It just works. And then you get the next day, and they basically find the Owl Temple. It's just like a giant set of doors in the middle of freaking Siberia, and there's loads of owl insignia on it and everything. And even on the door, there's a Master Emerald, but there's also the 7 emeralds. And we see their colors and stuff. And so that already just led me to think, yeah, the Chaos Emeralds are in this now. I missed that detail in the trailer, I think, or maybe it wasn't in the trailer. But yeah, that happened, and we do get a little bit of backstory of the Master Emerald and the Echidnas and the owls, and it was shown to us in a very cool animatic, a genuinely well animated animatic. I wanted to see more backstories with that sort of animation style. So the story is that a group of Echidna warriors forged the Master Emeralds using the 7 Chaos Emeralds, and that formed Master Emerald has the power to conquer the universe. The owls thought that nobody should have that level of power, and so they took it from the Echidnas and then proceeded to guard it, which obviously led to centuries of war between the Echidnas and the owls. I do like that this gives a little bit of the backstory as to how the Master Emerald was formed, and it does explain a bit why the Echidnas attacked in the first film. I really like how the Master Emerald is portrayed here about being ridiculously powerful, as it should be, and so naturally it becomes a point of conflict, and that's good. This leads to Sonic and Tails finding this small device that lets them track to find where the actual Master Emerald is hidden, because the Master Emerald wasn't hidden here. But as they find it, Robotnik appears alongside Knuckles, and a small little fight breaks out, which leads to the snowboard sequence. And I just remember, because one of my friends, Fard, who you may remember from the stream or one of the videos, he's a huge fan of Sonic Adventure 1. He loves that game. And he just turned to me and was like, dude, is this Ice Cap Zone? This looks like Ice Cap Zone. And I just turned around and went, yeah, this is probably a reference to Ice Cap Zone. And it was a really cool snowboarding sequence. You get a nice back and forth between Sonic and Knuckles. Again, kind of that whole almost nature versus nurture thing, with Sonic taunting Knuckles, being like, oh, look, you've trained your whole life, and yet I'm still ahead of you. That's gotta suck, right? Really cool in that respect. And this sort of, when they reach near the edge of a cliff, Knuckles and Sonic actually start to converse, and Knuckles tells us his backstory and his side, and it starts to get a bit more deeper and more connected here. So essentially what happened is that Knuckles wasn't actually born as the last remaining echidna that's alive, kind of like how it is in the games, where Knuckles was just kind of born into the role of being the Master Emerald Guardian, and he's had no family whatsoever. He seems to have grown up to at least like sort of older child status here, because I think Knuckles is like a couple years older than Sonic, and his father was part of the group of echidnas that went to attack Longclaw, because Longclaw is the last surviving member of that sort of owl group. And so pretty much all of the echidnas, except for Knuckles, because Knuckles had to stay behind because his dad told him to, all those echidnas were the ones that went to attack Longclaw at the beginning of the first film, and it looks like they ended up all killing each other and making Knuckles the lone survivor of the echidna tribe, and making Sonic lose essentially his mother. And it's incredibly poetic how on that same event, because of the Master Emerald, that one event created loss for both Knuckles and Sonic. They both lost something precious to them on that day, Knuckles losing his father and his tribe, and Sonic losing his mother. And it kind of connects to him, and Knuckles starts to fall for it, and he's like, and Knuckles starts to like lower his guard around Sonic until Tails, because Tails didn't obviously witness what was going on here, uses one of his gadgets on Knuckles to try and trap him. Knuckles, of course, being Knuckles, just breaks out because he's badass like that. And then Knuckles, because he's so easy to influence again, he doesn't quite have those social cues down. And we see this throughout the film a lot. I'll talk about Knuckles' character more in depth closer to the end of this. But he sort of says Sonic, "Oh, you're a traitor," and then they go to attack, and then this whole avalanche sequence happens. Tails also gets injured during this, so Sonic has to carry Tails, and then we get that whole scene of back at the wedding, the calls between Tom and Sonic, and Tom has to grab the ring to open up a portal to let Sonic through to save him from being completely destroyed by the avalanche. And it's also here where we get our introduction at the wedding anyway. So we get our introduction to Gun. This whole Gun sequence, the introduction of Gun here is interesting. So that sort of, I don't even know what his status is. Colonel? Military leader? I'm just going to call him a military leader. That sort of military leader from the beginning of the film who appeared at the end, from the end of the first film, and the person who sends out Robotnik in the first film, is now basically the leader of this new military faction called the Guardian Unit of Nations, Gun. So clearly setting up for to adapt like the sort of adventure games. And Gun is sort of created to deal with these sort of extraterrestrial creatures like Sonic and Tails, and they've been sort of tracking Tom and Maddie. And this whole wedding actually was entirely a setup. And the person who was marrying Maddie's sister was an agent. All of his friends, agents. Loads of people at the wedding, all agents. Even the priest, in a very funny joke where the priest just opens up a Bible to reveal his gun, is just an agent. It was so funny. And that leads to conflict, obviously, between Maddie's sister and her, who was the guy who was supposed to be her husband, where you get some genuinely really cool moment with Maddie's sister, who has this sort of montage with rock music playing in the background as she leads to this explosion that happens where the wedding arch was and stuff. I didn't think it was possible to make a character cool, but there you go. But this leads to Gun capturing Sonic and Tails, and obviously because Tom decided to punch a couple of the officers of Gun, Tom was apprehended as well, and they were taken back to the hotel to be secured until further notice. This leads to a wedding breakout where Maddie and her sister team up, and they use Tails' gadgets because Tails left his backpack there because Tails is still unconscious and injured. And they start using his gadgets randomly, and it ends up working in their favor, and Maddie anyways manages to go and save Tom, Sonic, and Tails. Meanwhile, Maddie's sister is getting her revenge in her own way by threatening people with a seriously dangerous laser gun. And after this sort of breakout, we see that Knuckles and Robotnik have found the location of the Master Emerald off the coast of this island, and it's this giant sort of complex labyrinth filled with loads of traps like spikes and swinging axes and stuff. And they sort of make their way through that, and then as Sonic sees that giant light being emitted, that giant green light that was emitted from the Master Emerald can be seen pretty much worldwide. And as Sonic sees that, he wants to go there, and then Tom says, "No, don't go there, we'll find a way to go there together." And here you get sort of Sonic, it's not really character growth, more than it is him just kind of, is it being selfish? Kind of. He still doesn't understand what it means to truly be a hero here, but he thinks he's doing the right thing here by saying that he's going to go on his own to get the Master Emerald and to fight Knuckles and Robotnik, because he doesn't want anybody else getting hurt on his account, because he's the one who told Tails to go with him and that he would protect Tails, and now Tails is injured and unconscious. And then as he runs off to go meet with them, we see that, Knuckles and Robotnik have basically made it through, and Sonic makes it through. Obviously, he has all the super speed and everything. And then they eventually meet in front of the Master Emerald, and I'm not gonna lie, it was bloody. This is where the line happened. Just the one of the funniest lines of this film was just Robotnik saying the words, "That's almost as worthless as a backstage pass to a Limp Bizkit concert." I don't know why that's so funny, but it is. And After that happens, we get the sort of final showdown between Knuckles and Sonic, and I'll admit, as much as it is fun to see them sort of like blast into each other and stuff, seeing seeing Sonic like throwing hands and kicking and stuff, and then just meeting in the middle was so fucking anime. I loved it. And we also get, I think, a reference to the bounce bracelet, because there's this whole section here where Knuckles sort of like gets sort of laid out, and Sonic sort of bounces down multiple times onto Knuckles, and again, really cool reference to the bounce bracelet, if that was the intention. I think it was. Sonic was in the ball anyways, and as they fight. Robotnik obviously had his own agenda. He was planning to turn on Knuckles, like in the game, and Robotnik takes the Master Emerald for himself, and Robotnik gets imbued with the energy of the Master Emerald and basically becomes an immortal, omnipotent being that can destroy anything and create anything, because the Master Emerald has the power to turn your thoughts into reality. Sonic 06, ladies and gentlemen. And so he goes off, and there's this whole subplot that I'll talk about in a minute. But during this time, Knuckles gets trapped under some rubble and falls underwater. And Sonic, obviously because he's kind-hearted and stuff, doesn't want to leave Knuckles to drown. And so he goes to save Knuckles. And then when Knuckles is saved, he goes up. We get our missed opportunity here where the drowning music could have been playing. And then Knuckles comes back to save Sonic because Sonic can't swim. And one really cool thing that happened here with Knuckles being saved is that the second that Knuckles was saved and both him and Sonic were sitting on the beach, Knuckles thinks that Sonic was saving him as part of this bigger plan to defeat Knuckles in probably a more honorable way, something like that, because Knuckles is all about honor and being a warrior and dying like a warrior. You constantly hear him say stuff like, "Why don't you just die like a warrior would?" Kind of stuff like that. And this again gives us more of a look into Knuckles' character. He doesn't understand these social cues of friendship. Everything to him is about being a warrior and all that honor and stuff. And again, it worked because Knuckles gets some social cues and understands a bit of talking to people, because he did grow up with members of an Echidna tribe to a certain extent. But I'm assuming that Echidna tribe was very tribal in its nature, very focused on, again, the warrior life and dying like a warrior, and almost like there was that one point where he was just like, wait, do they believe in Valhalla? Just with the way Knuckles was talking about death and the afterlife. Obviously, Sonic just starts chucking sand at him and goes, "No, I'm just saving you. That's it. I don't want to see you die." And this sort of leads to him and Knuckles becoming friends. Not complete friends just yet, but enough friends, because now they've got a mutual goal of Sonic wanting to stop Robotnik and Knuckles wanting to get the Emerald back. And it's also at this time where we cut back to Green Hills. Robotnik is sort of with Agent Stone, and there's this whole subplot. He rescues Agent Stone, and there's this whole subplot of Agent Stone in this film, who is weirdly funny, and I truly mean weirdly, because what was just admiration in the first film has turned into a full-on man crush for Agent Stone and Robotnik, and I genuinely mean a full-on man crush. There's like him just making little sort of coffee patterns at the top of Robotnik, and he makes and he's like dressing up Robotnik on his screen. There was at one point where Robotnik was just in a maid costume, and all that tells me is that at one point Jim Carrey had to put on a maid costume, and that's fucking dedication to a role if I ever saw it. And yeah, that this was sort of like a weird little subplot, but he got captured by the temporary sheriff. Seriously, I can't remember his name, but I will at some point. Yeah, he saves him, and then Gunn appears, and Gunn thinks, "Oh yeah, we've taken away your funding. Let's see what you do now." Obviously not realizing that he has the power of the Master Emerald, and he starts pulling apart all of these machines around it. Like in the trailer, he was just doing that. I thought he was just doing it to destroy something, but no, he actually pulls apart all that stuff, and the commenter actually guessed that this would happen. If I find that comment, I'll put it up here, but if not, you know who you are. And Robotnik combines all of these pieces of metal and all the scrap and nails and stuff to create that gigantic Death Egg robot. And this works so well for his character again, because Robotnik here is extremely narcissistic, right? Like he should be. And obviously the Master Emerald turns your thoughts into power. So obviously Robotnik loves machines, so he'd want a giant unstoppable machine that has his face planted right on the front of it. And that's exactly what Robotnik would do. Again, these writers, they understand the characters that they're working with. They're not just changing shit up whenever they feel like it because they feel like it. They know what they're working with here, and they're writing around the character, not letting the character be written around the story, and that is so important. But yeah, the Death Egg robot is assembled, and then we see Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles team up, and this is just where I was getting so giddy. To see Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles team up on the big screen like this, with all their characters being done justice, and there was even, I think like that's a Sonic Heroes reference that happened, because as they were running towards the Death Egg robot, they sort of split, so Sonic kept on going straight, Tails went to the right, I believe, and Knuckles went to the left. And I think that was a reference to Sonic Heroes, the best Sonic game, because in Sonic Heroes there are certain loops and stuff where you can split off if you switch to Knuckles, because then you're in a spread pattern. You could split off and go around, and this allows you to get extra items. And if so, what a very creative reference to Sonic Heroes. And there's also this nice reference inside the Death Egg robot that Agent Stone was holding up a manual of how to operate the Death Egg robot, and that manual had the same sort of font and look and stuff as a Sega Mega Drive game cover. This movie has so many references, but these references aren't shoved into your face. They're blended in nicely so that they're not just constantly going, oh look, we know the Sonic lore, we know the Sonic meta, we know what's here, but they go, yep, we get it, move on quickly. If you catch it, you catch it. If you don't, you don't. But it's nothing that's forced into your face. And, you know, as these three sort of begin to fight the Death Egg robot, it's kind of like fighting a losing battle, but Sonic provides a distraction, then Tails provides a secondary distraction, and Knuckles comes, and then he punches Robotnik, causing the emerald to fly out. And then Sonic tries to recover the emerald, but he's really injured at this point. And it's also around this point that as he's about to be stepped on by the Death Egg robot, because Robotnik sort of recovers a bit and then is able to still control the Death Egg robot, even though he no longer has the Master Emerald's power. But Tom and Maddie drive in and save Sonic from being stepped on, but even still, you know, the car is wrecked and they're all sitting by the side, and, you know, they're telling each other how much they care for each other. And they think that this is going to be the end. And it's at this point as well, while they're being very, well, not really optimistic about the situation, but realistic for sure, that the Master Emerald starts to break apart. And I'm wondering, wait, what's going on here? And then the 7 Chaos Emeralds sort of popped out. And that's when I was just like, no way, we're gonna see this, right? We're gonna see this. We're gonna see this happen right now on the big screen. And then it did happen. It did happen. What you think exactly happened. Super Sonic appeared. Holy shit, did I get excited. And they did Super Sonic all the fucking justice. Super Sonic was this invincible fucking god. You know, he's catching like the strongest hits with just one arm, with putting barely any effort in. He absolutely fucking destroyed Robotnik, and the machine takes off the entire head of the Death Egg robot. Is just watching my childhood come to life here, seeing Super Sonic appear on the big screen and being done fucking justice, and not being goddamn paid DLC Sonic Forces, what the hell. But yeah, that was great. And at the end of that sort of sequence, we get Tom, Maddie, Knuckles, Tails, and Sonic meeting up. Sonic proves that he's still Sonic by summoning chili dogs out of nowhere. Again, nice character reference. At least they understand that, you know, chili dogs are Sonic's favorite food. And yeah, that's sort of just kind of what happens. That's the end of that whole fight sequence, more or less. And then we get this sort of afterwards to like the sort of cool down period of the film, we get this baseball scene of Sonic playing baseball, but now instead of playing baseball by himself like he did in the first scene, you can kind of see the 180 because now he's playing it with Tom, Maddie, Knuckles, and Tails, and it's great. To see him like that because now he's in a much better place in his life. He's got friends, he's got family, and Tom and Maddie have now assumed less of a friendship role with Sonic and more of a parental role, with Knuckles and Tails taking over that friendship role. And I think that was kind of the intent, because at the beginning, on that boat scene, we get sort of Sonic saying to Tom, "You're supposed to be my friend, not my dad, so stop trying to act like my dad." Something like that. He's got his Peter Parker problems. And yeah, I'm weirdly impressed with this movie's baseball humor. Like, me and my friends were laughing so much during this baseball scene just at Knuckles being inept and not understanding the rules. And again, the ineptitude of Knuckles here doesn't stem from, haha, dumb Knuckles is funny. But instead, Knuckles' lack of understanding of, these games, these social cues. Again, Knuckles being isolated for a long time since his childhood, much like Sonic. Two sets of isolated people finally coming together. It's a really cool and, again, almost poetic story about their characters. And at the end of this baseball scene, they talk about getting dessert, and we finally get Knuckles talking about, oh, they're going to be grapes. Because in Sonic 3, in the manual, it was shown that grapes is Knuckles' favorite food. And even in Sonic Generations, Knuckles is standing in front of grapes. And it's just like, yeah, finally, these guys fucking understand the characters. Oh my god. Alright, so let's talk about Knuckles' character before we talk about the post-credit scene, and just to give my general final thoughts of the film anyways. Knuckles' character, I think this might be my favorite incarnation of Knuckles' character. That sounds crazy, I know, but I think it might be. This Knuckles delivers on everything. It gives us the serious of Knuckles, but it also shows us that he doesn't quite understand the social cues and everything, whenever he's supposed to give a handshake, he just squeezes super hard, and he basically dislocated Robotnik's hand when he did that first thing. Robotnik had to reposition 2 of his bones and stuff, and it was really cool just to see this sort of socially inept Knuckles again, similar to, well, these sort of Sonic 3 Knuckles, more so the Adventure 1 Knuckles. And it was nice to see this Knuckles being naive, and Robotnik actually acknowledges Knuckles as being naive. And we know Knuckles isn't the brightest light bulb, but he is still treated kind of smart here, but not seriously smart. And his dumbness, again, is an aspect of the fact of his lack of understanding of his social cues than anything else. He's not just being dumb for the sake of, Sonic, for being dumb, like it's the Sonic Boom level of dumb where he can't tell his fucking right from his left. That is just fucking dumb. But this is well written. But this Knuckles is so serious when he needs to be. He constantly brings up his ancestors and talks about honor and being a warrior and his fighting skills as well. And he genuinely is just super strong in any case, like he should be. This is an incredible Knuckles that delivers on everything. And he kind of goes almost through his entire arc that took a few games to get through. With the actual games that he appeared in. So Sonic 3 and Sonic Adventure 1 and Sonic Adventure 2's arc kind of ended with Knuckles going from that socially isolated guardian who didn't really care for working with people or anything like that and just wanted to do his job, to becoming his sort of the more open character who's willing to have friendships and stuff. They kind of have that entire arc that took 3 games take place in this one film, but it didn't really feel like they rushed the character arc for this film. It felt perfectly in character for Knuckles to be able to do this. Maybe it was a little fast for him to just be absolute like best friends with them. But again, it's nothing that's so bad that it's gonna just break your suspension of disbelief or anything like that. This was a well-written Knuckles from start to end, and I don't know, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna just really, really take a look at this Knuckles and the Knuckles that we've gotten in the games, and I'm gonna have to like really just take that close look to and see which one I truly prefer. But I think that this Knuckles might just be my favorite incarnation of the Echidna. And this Tails as well, like I said, this Tails is very interesting. They're taking the slow burn approach, and it's probably going to be the next film, and especially with the teaser that we got, it's probably the next film where he's going to get his big confidence boost. And just, please, Paramount, don't fuck up Tails' character here. You're doing so well so far. Just don't mess it up by having him be the tech guy in the background. Please. Robotnik, as I said, his character is just like a more crazy and almost more revenge-driven version of his character from the first film. Like, his character in the first film started with him just kind of doing his job and being superior to everybody, while in his mind being superior to everybody, and it slowly evolved into almost revenge, just wanting to capture Sonic and Tom for just pissing him off, and because, you know, he almost has this something to prove to himself by being the best, and the only way that he could be the best is to actually capture Sonic and Tom. And now it's almost like pure revenge, but it works. And Robotnik is still just as Jim Carrey as ever with this one. In fact, sometimes arguably more so than the first film. He goes a bit crazy. There is one point where, unfortunately, he did floss. You were so close, film. So close. But you made Robotnik floss. At least that floss was only for half a second. But please stop that. Please. So that floss was kind of a down point. And there's also another joke that didn't quite land for me, obviously, much like the first film, was the fart joke. There was a very, very prolonged fart joke here that just lasted for a bit too long, if you catch my drift. A lot of that could have been edited out. I'll be real. But the comedy in this one lands a lot more and a lot more consistently than the first film, which is great. And the comedy here, like I said, is a lot of the time smart comedy. You know, taking advantage of the situations that they're in and stuff, and not overly explaining it, but not just being, haha, that was dumb, so it's funny, or that was loud, so it's funny, but actually, you know, being smart with how they're delivering their lines and stuff. Tom, like I said, the human characters in general taking a back seat, but characters like Tom being used to catalyze the arcs for Sonic. And, you know, Tails' character arc is going to be a long one. Knuckles has almost pretty much completed his character arc, more or less. And yeah, there's not much more for me to really say here for this film, except for the post-credit scene. Now, when this film concluded, I already was like, I don't think they can top this. And when the credits were rolling, me and my friends were talking, and we went, I wonder what could happen. And my friend was like, okay, I'm guessing Shadow is going to appear. And then I went, I don't know, it might be a bit soon for Shadow, but it would be a really cool sort of thing if they showed a post-credit scene of like a room in the space colony arc, and they just hover to like this, like maybe a file or you know, just something scratched onto a bit of metal that said Project Shadow on it or something like that. But no, they did something even crazier. It started with, you know, Robotnik being presumed dead, but then we see that one of the gun soldiers was actually just Agent Stone impersonating a gun soldier. And then it cuts to this female gun soldier talking to the military leader here, and she says something along the lines of, they've uncovered something new about Robotnik, a project from 50 years ago. And the second that they said 50 years ago, I already knew what was coming. And I think all of the Sonic fans knew what was coming. But then this sort of, it cuts to this room in the Space Colony Arc, and then this pod slowly starts, well, not Space Colony Arcs, sorry. But when I say Space Colony Arc, it's like, it's locked away, isn't it? He's not going to be on the space colony arc just yet. But then it starts rising. This pod slowly starts rising. And inside that pod was fucking Shadow the Hedgehog. And holy shit. I was excited. If there's one thing about British cinemas compared to American cinemas is that, at least from what I've experienced, nobody really like cheers or claps or gets loud. It's rare. It's very rare for that to happen. In American cinemas, it happens a lot. But in British cinemas, it doesn't really happen too much. But here, the cinema went loud, and I mean loud. I was not expecting that to happen, but there were so many of us, and I'm guessing that we were all just Sonic fans who are so excited to finally see this series getting the respect it deserves and being treated well. Like, this is the first time in a long time that I can say I'm certain about something in Sonic's future, because a lot of the times when it comes to Sonic, it's just... I don't know what's going to happen. The next thing could be good. The next thing could be bad. It could be bad story. It could be a good story. Bad characters, good characters. You don't know, but this is the first time that I'm certain. I'm so hyped for this third film, and I think that it's going to smash the first film out the park. Because it's going to be based off of my favorite story from the Sonic franchise, which is Sonic Adventure 2's story. And a lot of people share that sentiment of mine that Sonic Adventure 2 is the best story with some of the best characterization. And this opens up lots of possibilities about what they're going to do with Shadow, and are they going to, maybe sadly kill off Shadow at the very end for that. And we're going to get new characters introduced, but this means we're going to get Rouge introduced in the next film. We're going to get Maria introduced in the next film, Gerald Robotnik, Amy probably in the next film. And it's kind of scary thinking about it like that because, I don't want them to introduce too many characters to the point where they don't have enough time to build up the character arcs and show off the characters, and so like they lose focus and each character doesn't get enough focus, and then it just kind of ends up with a bunch of mediocre characters. They need to keep doing what they're doing here and focus really on the characters. Again, they can change up the story of Adventure 2 slightly. We don't need all those characters that were there. But, seeing all those characters working together at the end to stop the space colony arc from crashing was just, like, one of the highlights of me playing that game when I was younger. And, yeah, that credit scene was insane. And it sucks that we're probably going to have to wait, like, another 2 years or so for Sonic 3. But, at least to tide us over till then, we've got the Knuckles TV show coming to Paramount+. And I want to know more about that. That's probably going to explain more of Knuckles' backstory and how he grew up and what he's been doing between him losing his father and him finding Robotnik. It's probably going to fill in a lot of the gaps, and I'm excited for that. But, yeah. Again, this might just be the Sonic fan coming out of me, but this film was fucking incredible. So incredible. It was, like I said earlier, me basically watching my childhood coming to life on the big screen, and I'm sure for many other Sonic fans watching this as well, they share that exact same feeling. And yeah, it's not an absolutely perfect film, it's not a masterpiece, it's no Dark Knight, it's no The Incredibles, but it is amazing. And if you haven't, if you haven't seen it, I don't know why you're here. I'll be honest, you just got the whole movie spoiled for you. Like, step by step spoiled for you. But I'm assuming that if you got here, you've watched the film and you probably enjoyed it as much as I did. But, yeah, just let me know about what you thought about the film. Comments below. I love reading the comments. I love having discussions with you guys. It's incredible. And just sort of let me know what your guys' thoughts on the film were. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Mostly indifferent? Thought it was pretty average? Loved it? Literally, there's a whole spectrum here, and there's a huge debate as to whether this is an amazing film or not. I personally think it's amazing. And like I said before, my final rating for this was the outstanding rating of a 9. Oh shit, I hit the microphone. A 9 out of 10. Maximum professionalism with me, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.